You're listening to Women Infused Radio, where women in the marketplace connect with purpose and spirit, where the conversation covers all things women, business, and fascinating faith. And now, your host, Christy Lynn Olson.
Welcome to today's show. I'm so excited because in this episode, we kick off our new series of interviews from the co-authors of our latest Women Infused book project. We have gathered 19 of the most amazing women of faith from across the country who are opening up their lives as women working in the marketplace as professionals from a variety of industries. I wanted to publish this 2-volume book series because I have had so many conversations with women who work and at times feel conflicted about how to live fully as women of faith outside the local church. There are times when they have felt less than valued because they are using their gifts in the marketplace and not recognized for their gifts within the walls of their own church. And I have to admit that most churches I've been involved with over my life have tended to best serve women, married women with children who stay at home. Nothing is wrong with that, so please hear me when you listen. No judgment here. Yet as a career woman or as a single woman or as a single working mother, I often felt disconnected from the church along with a lot of other women, and most of the women's Bible studies were held during the day on a weekday, so I could never attend. Now, that's not everyone's story. I want to be clear about that. But it did get me to thinking, and I wanted to find a way to help other women see the value and power of their kingdom calling outside the church and in the marketplace as they use their gifts and talents to impact and influence a generation. Walking by faith is a journey, and as for Christian women who work in the marketplace, that journey can be particularly challenging as they strive to do their job with excellence and be salt and light in a world that's filled with challenges. To have faith means to always have a vision of what success looks like for you, and to stay encouraged and engaged in your faith as you walk that out on a daily basis. And sometimes everything around you looks like an insurmountable obstacle. That's when you need faith like never before. That's when you have to be confident in what you see in your spirit and not be swayed by what you see with your eyes in the natural. The Apostle Paul knew this struggle all too well, and he wrote, "For we walk by faith, not by sight, living our lives in a manner consistent with our confident belief in God's promises." That's from 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 7, and that's from the Amplified translation, in case you're wondering. The women I am interviewing in this series over the next few weeks are women who bravely share their stories. They have learned to navigate their role in the marketplace as they live consistent and confident in God's promises for their lives. I wanted their stories to inspire, equip, and encourage you to keep pressing on as you walk by faith and not by sight. Today, my first guest is the beautiful Patti Ann Ridgway. She has such a strong confidence about her. Now, that may be because she's from Jersey, but in spite of that, she has a lot of trials that met her head on in her journey, and she's always kept a sense of humor. And it was fun to hear more about her take on owning a business, starting over a few times, parenting, and now moving on to a bigger vision for her life. Patti is a faithful, blessed, and highly favored child of God. She is the proud mama of 5 grown children, and she calls herself Mom to 6 grandgirls. She is passionate about her family, her faith, and feeding people. Yes, feeding people in the truest sense of the word. She co-creates with ordinary people on a physical, financial, and spiritual level so that they may live extraordinary lives and pay their blessings forward. Her life is driven by her God-given purpose, which is based on Proverbs chapter 3, verse 27. To withhold not good from those to whom it is due, when it is in the power of my hand to do it. Let's listen in now to my interview with Patti, and make sure you take a look at her website, projectfeeditforward.com. I'll put a link in the show notes to that for this episode. So let's listen in. Well, welcome to the Women Infused podcast radio show, and today we have Patti Ann Ridgway. And Patti, I am so happy to have you on, and it truly is such a treat to have you as my guest today as we talk about women of faith in the marketplace. Now, we're going to have a book that's coming out, and our listeners are going to hear and get a link of how they can get that book, and it's called We Walk by Faith, Not by Sight, Women of Faith in the Marketplace. And I'm excited to have you because you specifically had so many different twists and turns in your journey. And I want to just ask our listeners to really listen in as you share. And I was looking at some of the things you've done. You've been a real estate investor for 25 years, but then you specifically said that you were given a journey that took you out of your comfort zone and stretched you. So I was wondering if you could share with us a little more about that process of trusting the Lord and the stretches and getting out of your comfort zone that have kind of brought you to this moment today and what you're doing.
Sure, Christy, I'd love to share. And thank you for having me. I'm really, truly blessed and honored to be on this journey, to put the piece in the book, and to speak with you today. So, stretching and reaching out of your comfort zone.
Not our favorite subject, is it?
No, not at all. And I think that encompasses embracing change, which is oftentimes hard for us. So, as I said, I was a real estate investor for years and years while I was raising my 5 children. And then I sort of went through a devastating divorce. I was in business with my husband, so I lost my job. There was a lot of change that happened in a short amount of time. And I say, I just leaned into my faith because I had no idea what the future was going to bring for me. And so I just kept, holding that little lantern that only shone a few feet in front of me. And I just had to keep journeying on to the doors that I knew God would open. But it was a challenge. It was definitely a challenge to, keep my faith, keep my strength up, not knowing in what direction He was going to lead me. So there were a lot of changes in my career path. Originally, I went back to school to become a pastry chef, and I was doing some modeling at the time. I was doing a lot of things, but I just knew that wasn't the journey God was taking me on, because my heart wasn't feeling fulfilled and I wasn't feeling like I was serving other people in my journey. So I just kept persisting, and that's when I stumbled upon the industry that I'm in now, the network marketing industry. And I'm a health and wellness coach, and I love what I do. But again, I still felt like God put me there for a bigger journey. And after 6 years in this industry, I've had a new path open up to me in the same industry with the same company, but I'm actually feeding the hungry with our product. And so it's opened up another door that's had to make me stretch a little further beyond just being a health coach. And I just know, again, that this is a divine appointment. My industry is a divinely inspired one, and I just keep following, that light that God keeps shining on my path.
I love when you say, and I've heard that story before as well, that your pastor said, you have a lantern and it shines just enough light to get to the next step. And I'm thinking that that's probably indicative of your journey as well, that sometimes we only know what to do tomorrow or what to do next week. And we are just trusting in the Lord to give us what we need, but He has given us gifts and talents and certain strengths. I'm wondering if you could tell us and tell our listeners, what are some of your strengths that you think have really helped carry you in this journey?
Well, I think we see a lot of our strengths in retrospect. We don't always notice them as we move through life.
Right.
But looking back, I brought twins home to a 3, a 4, and a 5-year-old. So one of my beautiful strengths is, organization and inspiring my children and instilling independence in people and in their ability to grow and to be who God designed them to be. So I think leadership really is a strength that I have that, again, as I was moving through it, I didn't see it, but I think it's one of my great strengths that I put to use today. I think my faithfulness, and maybe people don't look at that as a strength, but I look back and I see if there was any advice I could give to people is to develop your faithfulness, because every morning I get up and I do my devotionals, because that's going to help me tap into my divine purpose. Mm-hmm. And so if I can connect with that, or have people, know to connect with that purpose, their faithfulness every day, it makes embracing the changes and the day-to-day so much easier when we know that, we've connected with this plan and we're just following along on the journey that he's laying before us. Mm-hmm. So I think there's some of my core strengths. I'm very personable, so I love connecting with people. And again, I think that's a strength God put in me, because he's using me as a link in the chain in people's lives to, maybe not bring them to Christ, but definitely show them, my journey, and share all the tests that I've been through, and have that become a testimony, to inspire and breathe life into other people who may be going through some of the same challenges I went through.
And I think you've hit the heart and the core of what Women Infused has stood for, is we're on purpose with spirit. And so we know deep down God has a calling, but we don't always know what that looks like. And I love what you said about one of your strengths is leadership, but you didn't always realize that. And I just think that's even a characteristic of a leader, because we humbly serve. We just do the work that's laid out before us. Yet in that faithfulness that you were talking about, God shows up every single time, and he gives us everything we need. And that is the way that we can influence a marketplace and a workplace with all the skills that we have. So I'm so glad that you talked about leadership and faithfulness as coexisting, because I think sometimes we have to separate that. So I've heard you say that, no, that's really, you can't separate that, and we have to keep that a part of who we are. So that kind of leads me into the next question I've been wanting to ask you is, as we're called to be salt and light in this world as believers, you mentioned something in the book about feeling like you could be the tour guide, and that just struck me. I wrote big circles around it, and I thought, oh my goodness, that is so awesome to think of myself as a tour guide in the marketplace. But that also involves being effective and doing things with excellence, but not perfection. So I'm getting to the question. So we're not necessarily called to be perfect, but as leaders, and as you've seen in your life, in your business, how can we do things with excellence and be more involved and effective as that tour guide for Christ? Can you give us some specific, tangible examples of how that has played out, either in the teams that you're building right now or previous careers? How have you chosen to be more involved as a tour guide in the workplace?
Okay, in everything you were just saying, I love, one of my favorite quotes is, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the call.
Yes, amen.
And I love that, because that is so in tune with what we're doing. And even when I said I was stretched beyond my comfort zone, when I got into the network marketing industry, I had been home working as a real estate investor. I did not feel like I was a business person. I did not feel qualified to be a business person. But as I built my teams, and as I built them with faith and shared my faith in building them, I presented our business opportunity. It's really a mission. It's it's a kingdom building mission. I'm teaching people to honor their temple. Mm-hmm. I'm utilizing all of my spiritual tapestry, my spiritual journey, my spiritual history to instill in other people what they need to do to honor their temple, and to show them that, it's when we take care of ourselves and when we keep our toolbox filled with proper nutrition and exercise and, and our spirituality, that we can truly live into our destiny and be that to others. Mm-hmm. So I think it's so important to keep growing spiritual, so that we can be that salt and light for others, and we can show people our journey and take them as tour guides, through what we've been through. It's not about perfection. I mean, there was a lot of times that, that light started to dim, that I had to get on my knees and say, God, when I couldn't stand anymore. I love that. You get on your knees and say, God, show me where I'm falling off track. Mm-hmm. And then again, that leads back to my daily, just my daily and my hourly, and every minute of the day, refocusing on his purpose for my life, and and reconnecting with him so that I can be that tour guide and I can be the salt and the light, and I can, live through the tests that I've had to be that testimony for others.
Right. And I love that we can take those tests and build that into our testimony. And that's what his word asks us to do. I want to circle back a little bit. You talked about one way that you've been able to do this is to structure your time, optimize any opportunities that come your way. And you hinted at it, and I want to follow back up on that. When you unexpectedly, I found that word funny, that you unexpectedly gave birth to identical twin boys when you already had 3 children at home, correct?
Yes.
So looking back, can you share, you said sometimes, and you just even said some of that light dims along the journey, but you mentioned in the book that the threads of your sanity and your spirituality wore thin. I'm wondering if you can share a little more about what that experience looked like, even though it wasn't the highlight of your life, but give us some practical advice or even tactical advice for working moms today who might find themselves in that season. They see no hope. Their life is crumbling around them, and they're just looking for something to hang on to. How could you address that, or how could you tell our listeners what that looked like for you, and what's one thing you really hung on to?
Okay, so yes, as you said, I went to the hospital to deliver my 4th baby, and found out after the first one out that there was another one in there. So I was totally unprepared for that.
Oh,
totally
my goodness.
Unprepared. and again, I brought them home to a 3, a 4, and a 5-year-old, and I was working. At that point, we probably had, close to 50 rental units, probably 15 houses that were, single family to multifamily. So my life became this craziness. But that's all I ever wanted, was to have a family and have a career, and, just that is what I wanted, but it really was just too much for me at that time. Mm-hmm. And I am sure many women may not have had quite as much, but we all have something that gets overwhelming in our lives when we just feel there's too much on our plate and we don't know what to do with it. And I think there's a lot of things that we can do to help us with that. First of all, again, praying and having faith that God is, he, not that he's testing us, but that he's not giving us more than we can handle, but he's developing our journey, and he's developing our what he plans for our lives. And although it may not have been what we planned, know that there's a purpose, and know that his perspective is bigger than ours. And at the far end of it, we will grow beyond measure through that journey.
Hey everyone, this is Christy Lynn Olson. Wasn't that an awesome interview? And that's only a highlight of our entire interview together. To hear the full interview, uncut and full of wisdom and practical tips for women of faith in the marketplace, you need to download the free Women Infused app, available on Apple and Google Play stores. After you download the app, go to the Women Infused Podcast Radio Network. There you will find the full interviews for all of the We Walk by Faith book series co-authors as we release them. Plus, if you download the app today and go to the Women Infused Radio Network, you will have the opportunity to receive a free ebook devotional called Love Notes of Encouragement for Women of Faith in the Marketplace. It's full of special bonus inspiration and encouragement, including a special collection of notes of encouragement from some of the co-authors of the We Walk by Faith and Not by Sight, Volumes 1 and 2 book series. Hurry, because this offer for the free ebook will only be available for a limited time. So go to womeninfusedapp.com. That's WOMENINFUSEDAPP.com for links to download and the free app today. There is also a link in the show notes. Join our community of faith-filled women, and we look forward to connecting with you there. And remember this, alone you are significant, but together we are amazing. For my identity, I long to be saved.